How's everybody?
Good.
Good. Well, you know, I think that you guys kind of get it just like everybody else. Is there anybody ever in college football who didn't have a good recruiting class? That they didn't satisfy their needs and they didn't get somebody who's going to make an impact on the team next year. So I don't want you to think I'm being glib in the way I manage this, but you know, we are pleased with the kind of football players that we were able to attract to come to our school this year. There's a lot that goes into putting in having a successful recruiting class. I think first of all it starts with your assistant coaches and the great job that they do, and this is a long process now. I mean, at least probably a year or more in recruiting guys and getting started on recruiting of younger and younger players, which makes it even more difficult on the coaches because you're trying always to find a younger guy and get started on him earlier and earlier and earlier. It makes it more difficult to probably evaluate players and develop the kind of relationships relative to the rules that we had. But I thought our coaches did a tremendous job of identifying players, identifying talent, sort of satisfying some needs that we had relative to some areas where we had a significant amount of graduation, establishing relationships with these guys and their families. But also, you know, our players do a fantastic job of, you know, hosting these players, developing relationships with them, and help us in recruiting. As our administration does, Dr. Witt has always participated in our recruiting. Now Moore always participates in our recruiting. The university community here does as fine a job as any place that I've ever been or ever coached in terms of John Devers and the academic people here contributing from an academic support standpoint, as well as providing informative academic information about majors and spending their time on weekends to visit with players, and that's always a significant part of what we need to do. And I think the whole family and the whole team here, including our fans, the support, the passion that they show, whether it's in support of the A-Day game, the great support that we get on the road when we're playing on the road, as well as when we play here at Bryant-Denny Stadium, are all things that have a significant impact on being able to attract quality people, you know, in your organization. You know, and there's two things that I always talk about. How do you bring players to your team, and how do you develop the players once they get to your team? And I think we have a pretty good team of people to do that, and I'm pleased with the way we were able to bring players to our team, you know, this particular year. Now, you guys know that I'm not really much into the ratings and really don't even know how we are rated and really don't much care, you know, how we're rated. And every year I try to come up with some analogy to sort of put in perspective how you should rate recruiting classes. And maybe I've told you this one before, but if we went out to buy a hunt dog and it was a puppy, we would buy it based on its potential, lineage, whatever you want to call it, in terms of breeding, and we would know probably when that dog grew up whether it was a good hunting dog or not. And we would never know until we put him out in the field and saw him actually go hunt. But we would buy it without knowing for sure what that result would be. And I think, you know, recruiting is not an exact science, and really it takes about 2 years to really evaluate whether you had a good recruiting class or not. So if we really wanted to figure it out, we should be talking about the 2008 recruiting class right now. How good was the 2008 class? You know, whether it was Julio Jones, Mark Ingram, Marcel Darius, Mark Barron, you know, whoever you want to, Dante Hightower, whoever you want to talk about in that class now has been out on the field and proven to some degree that they're good players. And there's many other players in that class that are good players, and there's some other players that haven't had an opportunity to contribute that will contribute in the future as well. And, you know, there's one thing that I always say to players when we recruit them, and a lot of these players make decisions based on where they can play next year. And the fact of the matter is not a whole lot of players actually play when they're freshmen, and only a few start and some contribute. And we've certainly had our share contribute here. I think 2 years ago we had 4 newcomers start and 14 players play, and last year we had a significant number of guys that played as well and made an impact on our team. And we always want to give these players an opportunity to play when they're freshmen. But are you going to be a better player when you're a senior in high school than when you're a freshman? And I think if you ask that question to any player, they would say, I'm a much better player now than I was when I was a freshman. And I think the same thing can happen when they get to college. They're going to improve each year. They're going to get bigger, stronger. They're going to have better knowledge and experience, and they're going to be able to participate. And that's why I think that the true rating of a recruiting class comes somewhere down the road when you look at how many people in that particular class turn out to be the kind of players that we think they might be. We're very pleased because we have a unique circumstance in this class that we have 11 players, 7 new freshmen, 1 junior college transfer, 3 holdovers from a year ago, and a transfer from another school that are all here at mid-semester who are going to be a part of our team. And they're going to be here for spring practice. They're going to be here for off-season program. And that's going to enhance their development. And we feel very fortunate that we have quality players here that may impact our team and have given themselves a better chance to impact our team because they're going to be here a semester early. So I think that that's going to enhance their development. Kareem Jackson did that when he was a freshman, and he actually started as a freshman. So we think that's a real advantage to this class. One of the things that maybe gets overlooked a little bit, and I think it's something that could help our team quite a bit next year.
Michael.
I know you said you had 11 the early enrollees. Have you ever had that many before? And what specific things do you see from players who enroll early? What kind of benefits does that show?
Well, we haven't had that many in the past. I think there's a trend right now that more and more players are interested in doing that. It used to be sort of the exception that someone would want to do that or be in a circumstance academically to do that. But I think you see more and more players that are interested in doing that. I think from our perspective, the advantage is a guy can make an academic, social, and athletic transition in a semester that's starting not right in front of the season. In other words, you're going to, like these guys have been here since school started and hadn't had to do much but lift weights and go to school academically and socially adjust and adapt and learn how to use the academic support center and the services that are available to them. We're going to start the off-season program in a couple weeks, and we're going to have spring practice. So they have a much better opportunity to learn and grow at a little slower pace than when they start in the fall. It takes us almost a week to go through 3 practices in spring practice, and we do that in 2 days in fall camp. So it's a little easier transition for them, I think, academically, socially, and athletically. And it is an advantage to their development because they'll be here in the summer, and then when they go through it in fall camp next year, it's not the first time they go through it, it's the second time they go through it. So they do enhance their development.
Rich.
Coach, Wilson Love joins his brother Tyler at Alabama as one of 2 sets of brothers. I was just wondering if you would comment on their family and what Tyler has brought to the team so far.
Well, my first comment would be that meant that I got to go eat Miss Karen's cooking twice, not once. She's a real good cook. Pecan pie was great. But I think it's always a good situation to at least make the offer as to an opportunity for a family to decide whether people should go to school at the same place or not, if that's the best place for their opportunities. And I think that's the number one thing. And in this case, these guys don't play the same position. They won't be competing against each other. Not that that matters, because more than one can play the same position as long as you're a lineman and you're not a quarterback. But they're both fine young men. Tyler's been a real asset to our organization and is going to be a good player in the future. And even though Wilson's coming off of an injury, we're hopeful that